which things are most talked about, when really it starts from the bottom, works its way up.
It's almost like an upside down pyramid.
Exactly.
Those are stuff that we can start teaching, instructing people on what to do at home. But if we're not functioning the best we can, then obviously that capability is going to be limited to some degree.
Absolutely.
So then why sleep? Why is sleep important? Like I've been saying, it's big for recharge, recovery, regeneration. I mean, we create new red blood cells every 120 days. We have a new entire gut lining every 3 days. We have a new human body every 7 years. So how are we able to do that? Well, that process, a lot of those processes occur during sleep. Especially what's necessary in order to have a fertile kind of regrowth zone is we need to be able to clear away toxins. And so sleep, how people always say, okay, recommend 7 to 9 hours. Naturally they did, because that's essentially the time it takes for our little brain cell janitors, if you will, to actually clear up everything that has accumulated from the day prior, or potentially multiple days prior, depending on what we're doing to ourselves. So that timeline is actually kind of critical, because that's how much it takes away. What it's doing is those janitor cells, they're removing scar tissue. Removing scar tissue from neurons in our brain cells. And one of the potential consequences of having those toxins stack up and accumulate is what ends up leading to Alzheimer's, which is just a kind of protein. It's called beta amyloid, but it grows in our memory center of our brain, called our hippocampus. And when those are continuing to stack on and snowball on each other, that can start leading towards development of Alzheimer's in our 60s, 70s. So it seems pretty critical for that. Going in on short-term memory, so we experience probably new things almost every single day. We get told something by someone, and we have to try and remember that. You're like, wait, crap, what was that? And then, but how can we consolidate that in the long term? That whole process occurs during the phases of deep sleep. So, like REM, deep sleep, that is really when those short memories actually become something long term, and people who have difficulties getting sleep are going to have difficulty remembering, and the little details are going to start slipping through cracks. Eventually that can potentially snowball into the bigger details, starting slipping through bigger cracks. So memory is huge in terms of how dependent it is and the quality of it based off of sleep. In terms of high-level thinking, obviously cognitive function, waking up without brain fog, that's a big thing that's been coming up, especially as people start to age and hormones start to change, and just overall function is not necessarily as crisp or fast as it used to be when we were kids. But high-level thinking, being able to wake up where you're ready to go on the ball, it's tough to be able to do that right from sleep, but there should be a kind of a buffer zone to take advantage of getting out of that sleep state towards getting you being able to ready to fire on all cylinders for the rest of your day.
Yeah.
I'm a huge proponent of doing stuff in the morning for yourself that does that, because that way by the time I'm done with that, I've done a bunch of stuff for my personal well-being, but also I've kind of created a buffer zone to get out of the sleep kind of grogginess, but utilizing things that allow my physiology to actually wake up without the dependency of caffeine. And then lastly, whatever you got going on, you're not going to let you go on that, but immune system works when we sleep. It's not working right now because we're sitting out here awake and we're learning about this stuff, so we're trying to figure out, okay, how can I remember all this? Our immune system isn't turned on right now, but our immune system gets turned on when we sleep. So sleeping is a big parasympathetic function. So we have, do you guys all know what our autonomic nervous system is? Kind of gain it?
Part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so essentially, so when you think autonomic, think automatic, right? So there's things that happen inside of our system that happen just by itself. The autonomic nervous system is essentially broken down into two different things. There's parasympathetic and sympathetic. Sympathetic is where, if a bear's coming down the hallway, right, or you see like a big fuzzy thing coming down the hallway, you think it's a bear, heart rate starts to go up, breathing rate starts to go up, eyes get dilated so that way you can see more. But then you realize, it's actually just a cute German Shepherd. And I don't know if you're scared of dogs, but let's say, it's just a cute German Shepherd, it's not a bear, right? Heart rate comes down, breathing rate comes down, eyes start to constrict back. Now, do you think a majority of the world lives in a fight or flight or a rest and digest state? Fight or flight for sure. And that's exactly what the autonomic nervous system is there's essentially a pathway for both fight or flight or rest and digest, and we want to be able to identify which one we're for. And with the immune system is extremely interesting. And, we make sure we talk to our patients about this, because think about every single time you got a cold or a flu or something like that, your body wants to rest. And your body wants to rest because when you rest, the immune system gets activated a lot more. The immune system is more efficient when we're asleep than when we're awake, because when we're awake, there's so many different functions that we have to do. We have to see, we have to move, we have to breathe, or I guess we're breathing in our sleep. But we have to, cognitively think. But when we're sleeping, our body can only focus on so much because there's not so much stimulus coming into it. And so that's where the activated immune system comes into play while we're sleeping as well. Yeah.
Does that make sense? So parasympathetic too, the big kind of dominator for that is this big old nerve called the vagus nerve. It governs about 90% of our organ function. So going from swallowing, speaking, going down to my lungs, being able to expand and collapse as we inhale, exhale, heart beating, even also heart just contracting itself, not only the rate, going in on stomach function, pancreas, liver, all pretty much almost 90% of my organs, this one nerve controls. And that's
what y'all adjust.
We address the center that controls it.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's a great question, because that's what we get asked that a lot. Where, especially with the vagus nerve. Oh, so you all take care of the vagus nerve. I mean, the vagus nerve is just, obviously it's such a big nerve, but that's just one of the many nerves that we work with, right? So we see a lot of great things with, vagal tone issues or things of that nature, but since we work with the nervous system controls the vagus nerve, and so obviously we see good results with that, but it controls way more than just the vagus nerve. So yeah, and that's why we see the more profound cases or whatever, and it's because we take care of the global system rather than just a nerve specifically. That's a really good question. Very good question.
Yeah. So vagus nerve, think of it as like a highway, where it's transmitting a lot of this type of information to a lot of places. It's not necessarily the order giver. It's just relaying information, but it's relaying a lot of information specific to the immune system function, rest and digest, the parasympathetic tone as well. So that one is pretty critical for all these functions. So moving on to...
If you go back to the pillars of brain health,
Yeah.
I don't know if you see this, but I meet a lot of people that they exercise like crazy, and they sacrifice their sleep to keep this routine,
Yep.
and then they also don't correct their diet. And I always tell them you cannot out-exercise a bad eating habit.
No.
And so they're losing sleep and diet all in the name of exercising. And some of them, with the products they can make, you might look good and chiseled on the outside, but inside you're not very healthy, which is really,
Exactly.
it's really amazing when I see that, how many people have issues. Like I have a bodybuilder friend, he's 52, great guy, but his mind's just going.
Yep.
And on the outside, he's 6'3", he's a rock, but he's just, his mind's not good.
I used to be one of those people where I would sacrifice exercise for everything else. I've actually literally, just by focusing on diet and sleep, that's all I've been shifting on. And I've lost, this morning is 26 pounds just within 8 weeks. Just focusing on, and guess what? I'm not even exercising as frequently. Yeah. I'm not even exercising as frequently. The only thing, I probably exercise now like 2 to 3 times a week. I used to do 6 times a week. But just hyper dialed in my diet and hyper dialed in sleep, and then everything. And now when I work out, like I did the Murph workout. I'm not sure if you all are familiar with that. It's like a CrossFit workout. Did a Murph workout. I was in pain the next day. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was in pain, but I recovered really fast. You know what I mean? Faster than I typically would when I just focused on exercise. That's a really good point. Really good point.
I don't know if you see that. I see that with a lot of people. When you really listen to people, they'll tell you, more than they might think they're telling you.
Oh yeah.
And so they're, I do this, you should really do this, and then they kind of open up about other things, like, ooh, but you're not doing this, or they got their monster in front of me as they're telling me, stuff like that. I'm like, but you're hard for a workout, but you know what I mean.
It's incongruent. Yeah.
Well, I mean, all of these affect each other, so it's not like just like a linear thing. They're all actually connected.
Right.
And especially with we are prioritizing exercise, saying, okay, if I exercise, then I can just kind of disregard all these and not worry about them. But really, the mentality, mindset should be to think of them as energy tanks, or just tanks, and they need to be at the same level. each of them, because they all affect each other. So if I'm only doing exercise, if I have exercise just overflowing, overpowering, I'm making sure that that flow rate is just more than it was the day before. If all these are sinking, then eventually burnout's going to happen, mindset's going to get wrecked, and everything else outside of just being in the gym is going to snowball and probably be potentially, catastrophic for people, their quality of life and everything. So you really just need to do checks and balances. Like, hey, I'm really in the credit section here, but I'm kind of in the debit over here. I need to start adjusting this, and so it's just constantly checking in on all these different pieces and seeing, just giving yourself a grade. And like, you really have to have a mirror moment and just being like, okay, like, how well am I actually doing this, and what are the obstacles that I'm putting on myself that's preventing this bucket from being as full as this one, or preventing all of them from being equal with each other. But diet and sleep, I would say diet and sleep have a significant impact on the quality of exercise and also the best bang for your buck.
Yeah,
that
totally.
kind of concept too, big time. I'm glad you brought that up. That's critical. Next is going in on sleep itself. So, lack of sleep. How does all this stuff happen? We got impaired cerebral circulation. That's talking about blood flow. So lack of blood flow can actually impact how well blood is circulating around. And these are all the consequences of sleep. Obviously, we're going to explain what's causing this impaired circulation in the first place, but impaired cerebral circulation, if we're getting less blood flow to my brain, then my brain's going to have a tough time being able to switch off and rest, because it's being like, I need oxygen. Like, it's still awake saying like, I need oxygen, do it. And so we're not able to actually kind of shut everything down. This also impacts, so neurogenesis, what that's saying is, that's a big word. That's just saying regrowing nerve cells. We can actually regrow nerve cells at any point in our life. It's not just like you reach a certain age and you can't do it anymore, or how people say that you're born with X amount and over time you're just losing some and just chipping away. We can actually, it is possible for our system, our body, to create new nerves, as long as it's provided with the right kind of fertilizer, the proper soil, the proper watering and sunlight exposure. So it can take care of your carpet, but it is possible. But if we're having bad sleep, if we're not